So what I teach my clients and my patients is, let's set up a head garage type of thing, or use pressure. That's where weighted blankets come in. That's
I
where
love my weighted blanket.
different things come in. So for instance, if somebody is sleeping, can you see? Oh yeah, you can see me. Look,
Yeah, I can see you.
This is gonna be like interactive. We're gonna go back.
You're not gonna fall asleep on me, are you?
I know. Listen, I want this to be a sleep interview that doesn't put you to sleep. Okay, so we need to make sure it's entertaining.
Yes. Dr. Minnie in the house. All right.
I appreciate that. The carnivore diet.
Because of what we eat.
Honestly, you've really touched my heart.
Here's where I really want to start this conversation is insomnia. I have been blown away from being on social media platforms, how many people are struggling with sleep. So, if you could just bring us up to speed. I know you have a very structural approach to sleep loss, but bring my audience up to speed on why so many people are struggling with sleep.
All right, so this is fantastic. I was at a graduation party this weekend, and somebody came up to me, guy Danny. We'll just call him Danny, okay, Minnie?
Yes, that works.
He came up and he's like, Doc, you got to help me with sleep. I can't sleep. Like, I have been having such a tough time sleeping. And I'm like, Danny, you want to do this here in the middle of the party? I'm like, I'll do whatever you want. And there were people standing around, and I said, all right, Danny, tell me, like, how do you sleep? What's the position you sleep in? He's like, I sleep on my stomach. And he's like, I know that's not good. I'm like, all right, Danny, what I want you to do is, if you can, do you think you could watch a 2-hour movie on your stomach? Oh. And he's like, no, absolutely not. I'm like, well, then how long can you stay on your stomach for watching that movie? He's like, 15 minutes. I'm like, you're starting the night off to fail, right? You're starting it out to toss and turn all night long. And he's like, but that's the only way I can get to sleep. And I'm like, it is because you feel vulnerable. You feel that you are scared when you're sleeping. You don't feel like you're protected. He's like, oh my God. He's like, that's exactly what it is. He's like, if I sleep in any other position, I feel like somebody's going to come in and stab me, or somebody's going to open up my door. And that is really what the root cause of sleeping issues are. Like, fundamentally, we need to be able to set up a sleep sanctuary where we feel comfortable, we feel safe in our environment, and then create an environment with techniques to help us feel safe in any position. So when you're looking at insomnia, you're looking at being able to get to sleep, stay asleep, and wake up well rested. You need to make sure that fundamentally sleep is a place where you can relax and just be, because stress kills sleep. Yep. And look at what we're going through right now, Minnie, right? With COVID and this last year that we've been in. Is this world getting less stressful, or is it getting more stressful?
No.
And we need to, come up with some techniques, which we'll talk about, but really ultimately the people are having a difficult time sleeping right now because of the state of where we're at.
So how do you change your state though? Because let's say your day has been completely stressful. You sit down, you turn the news on. Now you're even more stressed. How do you, and then you decide it's bedtime and you try to plop into bed to go to sleep. There has to be one thing I'm learning for myself about sleep is that I've got to start thinking about it earlier in the day so that I set myself up to succeed. But if you're living in a stressful world, how are you going to be able to calm your nervous system down to sleep?
Let's look at like the animal kingdom, because I love looking at the animal kingdom. And let's look more in particular, the ostrich. What does the ostrich do to feel protected?
Hides in the woods.
It sticks its head in the sand, right? So when it feels that it's in danger, it sticks its head in the sand. It doesn't matter if obviously that's not a great solution for us to do, but It feels protected with darkness, with pressure around its head. So what I teach my clients and my patients is, let's set up a head garage type of thing, or use pressure. That's where weighted blankets come in. That's
I
where
love my weighted blanket.
different things come in. So for instance, if somebody is sleeping, can you see? Oh yeah, you can see me. Look,
Yeah, I can
perfect.
see you.
This is going to be like interactive. We're going to go back.
You're
to
not
the
going to
bed.
fall asleep on me, are you?
I know. Listen, I want this to be a sleep interview that doesn't put you to sleep. Okay, so we need to make sure it's entertaining. So like the ostrich, you can like lie on your back here, and then you can put something right over your head, right?
Okay.
And then you use pressure on your chest. Use pillows. I don't care if you need a whoopee. You get yourself a teddy bear again and hug it, but make yourself feel protected in that state. And then the anxiousness that you feel about being exposed will start to settle you down. You have to create, because a lot of people don't have the self-discipline of the mind to be able to clear their minds.
Right.
So the first thing we do is physically set up the environment, lock your door, put an alarm on, put something over your head, put pressure on your chest, and just set up a nice, calming, neutral space.
So it's not really a mindset change. It's a body change. You're trying to tell your body to calm down, which in turn will tell the mind, oh, we're safe.
Yeah, look at like, how do you feel? Let's say you put yourself in a place where you're on like the Tobin Bridge in Boston. There's a lot of traffic going by. People are beeping, versus putting yourself, in the Grand Canyon on a mountain in the middle of just bliss. When the surrounding around you changes, your state will follow that. So there are other techniques where we all hear about, let's say aromatherapy, right? Aromatherapy, you can use scents to relax you. Well, I tried that for years to try to like figure out what scent it did. And I'm like a scientific brain, and I analyze, but it wasn't until I meditated on a regular basis with a specific scent. Then when I used that scent outside of meditation, my brain connected relaxation with that scent. So you got to train your brain with scent. So there are different techniques that we use to be able to help people feel safe and calm them down to protect them.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I've actually heard that with scents, that if you use a scent and then when they go to take a test, like a student, and they use that same scent, it actually solidifies the information that they were learning as they were studying. So scents can be used like that, but I never thought to do the scent earlier in the day, calm myself down, and then use it at night as a trigger to go to sleep.
Yeah, so I was doing, well, my studies are all done on me, right? So they're done on me and my patients. So I was trying to see how fast I could get my heart rate down, and that's how I was using scents. And I found that when I was able to, once I meditated with a specific scent, then I used that scent, like later on in the day, it would calm my heart rate.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. So you're saying, because I've interviewed a lot of hormone experts on this podcast, and what I hear you saying is that it's not so much the preparation of sleep, but it's what you tell your body when you get into bed. You need to tell your body when you get into bed, your brain, we're safe, we can go to sleep. Is that the way you look at it?
Yeah. So let's look at me as more the practical application person.
Yeah,
of
I see
life,
that.
right?
Okay.
And there are a lot of people that dive into the hormones, and then they pull out the hormones and they try to regulate the hormones. But when we take, like, instead of microbiotics, when you eat, I'm the macro guy that says eat within your environment, right? And whatever you eat within your environment in season has to be healthier than eating a pineapple, from the other side of the world, right? So when you look at lifestyle, is like, so somebody posed me the question, like, they're like, what's the best natural sleep aid? And I said, the best natural sleep aid is a schedule. So you need to set up, your body adapts to what you do on a regular basis, and the hormones will follow suit based on adapting to your lifestyle. So you need to come up with rhythmic patterns and establish those patterns ritualistically and really be on a schedule. And that's the best way to be able to get a healthy sleep, I guess, score, if it's an Oura ring, or good healthy sleep is setting up regular patterns.
So going to bed and getting up at the same time is very important.
Yes, going to bed, getting up at the same time. And then, as always, get sun when you can. We're really tied in. Exercise is important, not too late, right? You don't want to exercise like right before you go to bed. You'll kill your sleep patterns.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Okay, now talk about sleep position, because I know that this is like a new concept that I actually hadn't thought about from a deep sleep, from a restorative sleep perspective. I knew that sleeping and let's educate our listeners on why you shouldn't sleep on your stomach. I knew sleeping on your stomach wasn't great for your neck, but what I learned from you when I listened to you talk in March was that sleeping on your back is such a powerful way to get a deeper quality sleep. And I had never thought about that. So let's talk about the structure of how we sleep and why it's so important.
All right. Now, so we're going to talk about the structure I want to tell you how I zigzagged into the sleep industry, because understanding the structure really is what brought me to where I am today in sleep. I mean, I'm an exercise physiologist, love biomechanics and kinesiology. That was my undergrad degree. I'm a nutritionist. I'm a chiropractor, and now I'm a sleep expert. How the heck did that happen? Well, in working with patients, now I've been in practice 21 years, but at the time, 15 years, people always had the same patterns. They were coming in with neck and back pain, and I was adjusting them till I was blue in the face. And as I had a chiropractor with a little hidden secret, is I had back pain every day of my practice. I had back pain all the time. And it was a kind of a humbling place to be, because I'm trying to help people with back pain, and I had it myself. And it wasn't until a day when I was on my mountain bike, and I attributed it to mountain biking and skydiving and doing and hang gliding and rock climbing. I was so hard on my body over the years playing sports. So I was like, oh, it's normal pain, right? It wasn't until I herniated my disc. I was in the emergency room. I was on Dilaudid because I couldn't feel my legs. I was in so much pain. And I knew it was a really bad place for me, because I had a shoulder issue, right? I had back issues. I always had pain. And I'm like, how did it come to this? I, as a chiropractor, am on a bed in the emergency room, hooked up to what I tell people not to take. And I needed it because I had so much pain. I couldn't stand it. And I said, something's got to give. How can I be at this low place in my life, feared for my practice and being able to, have a healthy spine again? And I knew there was a pattern. I didn't know what it was. So when I started being able to get mobile, I reviewed 2,000 x-rays, and I found that the pattern was this. It's whenever you lose the cervical curve in your neck, and just to reiterate, a curve in your neck is supposed to be not, your neck's supposed to be nice and curved. Your spine should be curved. That's the spring. That's the shock absorbers. Most people think the discs are, but it's not. So once you lose the curve in your neck and your head comes forward due to, being on a computer all day, due to texting, due to poor sleeping position, your body compensates from that by putting a scoliosis in your spine. So when you lose, and I believe it's because the body's taking dural pressure off of the spine. So when you lose this, you pick up this. So I was walking around with this curve in my spine because I had a bad curve in my neck. And I was a back sleeper, but I was using a pillow under my head like this.
And propping your head more forward.
Propping my head forward. And basically, this is kind of my airway picture that I show, but I was using a pillow under my head, and I wasn't supporting the proper cervical curve in my neck. So I said, holy mackerel, could it be that easy? So what I did is I started stuffing towels underneath my neck when I slept. And I know that the spine is like clay. It can be remolded. The older we are and the more scar tissue or degeneration we have, the harder it is to mold that clay, but it can still be remolded. So instead of working on my lower back, I was working on my neck, bringing it back. And all of a sudden, something amazing happened. My disc problem went away and I've never had back pain again since.
Crazy.
Because what happens is I fixed this and then I took the rotation and the pressure off of my lower back.
What's fascinating to me about that is I probably have spent thousands of dollars on the right pillow, like ordered every pillow on the market, and none of them go under your neck, or they were just way too rigid. It was like the pillows that supported a good neck curve were so stiff. So talk a little bit about why the pillow makes such a big difference, because I think most people don't realize that.
So one of the reasons we toss and turn all night long is because the body's in pain. Your pain center and your sleep center are right next door to each other. So whenever your body senses pain, you move. So if you and remember I said, the body is like clay, it will mold to the position that you put it in. So if you give me a side sleeper, right? And you try to watch TV like this for 2 hours, you're going to have to move because your body is going to be in pain, but your body will adapt. You give me a side sleeper, I'll give you a shoulder problem. You give me a side sleeper,
true.
I'll give you a hip issue. I'll give you a labrum pull. I'll give you back pain because your body's molding. We have 8 hours a night to reverse the damaging effect of what we did all day long, and that we can do it while we're sleeping.
That's crazy.
So what basically happens is when you use a lot of these cervical pillows, there's like they're foam, and then there's a hole for your head, but it still supports your head, and they're hard. When somebody uses a neck nest, when a neck nest breaks in, it's like, it's a pillow that we came. But when we use a neck nest, it's so soft, people think it's
crazy
lost
soft.
its support.
Yeah.
Which is really the opposite, because you're only trying to support 3 inches, right? And that's at max, the 3 inches from the bed to the base of your neck. So when you lie down, you got to put it the right way, right? So when you lie down, your head should kind of just hang out there, and you're using your head as a weight, right? And then you just lie there. And my body is in a neutral position where I could, if there's a TV on the ceiling, I could stay in that position for 8 hours. I don't toss and turn at all. And it took a while to do that.
I want to talk about that because, again, the logic is beautiful. I totally hear you. And I will tell you, I'm a side sleeper. I used to be a stomach sleeper. I'm now a side sleeper. And one of the things that really hit me when I heard you speak in March was that forward head syndrome. If you're already having to deal with that text neck or being at a computer too much, that when you're sleeping on your side, you're only reinforcing that curled position forward. I'd never really even thought about that. And I mean, as we age, that's the last thing we want, is to like curl into a little hunchback. We want to be much more open and get our shoulders back more. So how do you go from being a stomach sleeper or a side sleeper to being a back sleeper? Because I haven't conquered that yet.
1 hour a night is how you do it. You, like I tell my patients and my sleep community, my sleep tribe, just the light. Remember, we talk about habits. It's setting up the habit. You only need to stay on your back for 1 to 2 hours a night at the beginning. Then going on your side, do it, because your spine needs to adapt to being a back sleeper.
So, okay, 1 hour a night. And if, a lot of people have those elevated beds and I
love those. Yes.
You like them. Okay. So they can't sleep without it. So you're just saying, put a pill, we'll dive into the neck nest here in a moment, but you're saying put it under your neck with the elevated bed?
Yeah, so elevate your bed roughly. I mean, I know it. So you lift up the bed, or you can use a 6 to 7 inch bed wedge.
Okay.
So it's about 5 to 8 degrees elevation. Now the problem is then people who sleep on their side, it's a lot easier to keep your jaw shut or your airway closed because your chin is tucked. And that's what's destroying your spine, by the way, because when your chin's tucked, you're reversing the cervical curve. So we need to now be able to adjust the airway. So if you're sleeping on your back, a lot of people will start snoring because they're not used to being able to keep their airway shut in that position. So the research from surgical rooms, when somebody's under anesthesia, the head position plays an extremely important role in being able to open up your airway. So when people sleep on their back, and it's called the jaw angle. When people sleep on their back, what ends up happening is they use a pillow, which is defined as a support for their head, and their chins are tucked. Which closes down the jaw, which closes down the airway, and they'll start snoring. When you use a neck nest or something under your neck, now your airway's open. Now we need to just train the person how to keep that shut. You can use a pillow underneath your jaw. You can use sleep tape over your mouth. You can suck the tongue to the roof of the mouth to keep it closed. There are different techniques, but that's one of the biggest things to get used to, is being able to keep that airway closed.
So I'm laughing because if you saw my sleep setup, I've got a chili pad underneath my bed so I get the temperature right. I've got like 3 or 4 blankets and then a weighted blanket. I've got aircon on max in the room. Now I'm going to put a neck nest and some mouth tape. My marriage may not survive through all of that.
Well, when you sleep, I just want to let you know it's your time, Mindy, okay?
That's
Awake
okay.
time could be you and your husband's time, but this is a sacred place. In order for you to be who you are at 1,000,000% energy as you are, you need to. So you're an iPhone that has every app on during the day. You require so much performance out of that machine of yours. You need to plug in and recharge, or you can't be the best you.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
So I love it. You need to reset, as you would say.
I'm gonna say that next time somebody says to me, "Hey, you need more self-care." I'm gonna be like, "No, I just need to close down some of the apps that I turned on." I love it. So, okay, now talk to me about some of the science. So, my brain goes to, okay, I'm looking at you on the pillow and I'm thinking, yeah, I can see where you open up the pathways. I'm also know that when we sleep, our brain shrinks at night. And so we end up getting more cerebral spinal fluid. Do we have any studies that are showing that when you sleep on your back with a good pillow, your brain heals? I know you have like x-rays where you're seeing pre and post changes to the cervical curve. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so let's look at the research, right? And when we look at the research, a lot of the research says that's, or the major research study that is quoted states that you get better lymphatic drainage or drainage, cerebral spinal fluid drainage, sleeping on your side, right? So side sleeping. So I went out and I looked at that study that was done in 2015. I looked it up. And at the beginning of that study, there's a significance statement that it seems like everybody is reading over. And like, well, what's the significance statement? Well, it says that we understand that this study was done on rats, but we're extrapolating that the same sleeping position is best for humans. And then lymphatic drainage here. This is increased when this and increased with this. So I'm going to show you something, Mindy. These are the two spines for those of you that are looking.
Oh my gosh.
The one on this side is a rat, and the one on the other side is the human spine. Look at the cervical curve in the human spine. See how it goes in this position here?
Yep.
Look at the cervical spine in the rat.
Completely opposite.
Completely opposite. So like dogs and rats, they have a cervical spine that nobody, like when you're looking at the data, you can choose to look at certain aspects of it and ignore other aspects. I looked at it and I said, it is no way. The surface area of a human is greatest when you're lying on your back. So your weight is distributed over the greatest surface area. On a rat, its surface area is greatest on its side. So when you're looking at the way that they sleep, they're designed to sleep in a different position that we were. So I look at when I look at a study, or when I look at the structure and how we're supposed to sleep, I don't look at the lymphatic drainage, because that's going to happen. It's marginally better in a rat on your side. I look at the damage to your cervical spine, because your brain with movement is where you get the most amount of flow. Yes, breathing creates a little flow at night, but when you get up, everything in the body is supposed to swell. That is how we're designed to happen. And you're supposed to move and pump all that lymph out during the day when you're mobile and you're moving. So moving is the greatest area of flow and of nurturing of the spine and in the brain itself. So when I look at the study, I say, well, I'm not looking at that as a variable. I'm looking at the destroyed cervical structure that's happening in people's lives that are causing parasympathetic imbalance in their nervous systems, and looking at how can we as a world create a healthier spine, and you can't do it on your side.
Yeah. Brilliant. I love the way you explain that, because I dive into studies all the time, and they make these claims on the top of the study, and you're like, it's easy to get hooked in to the sensational headline, but when you dive in, there's always some little nuance that people aren't looking at. So that was, I feel like you need a mic drop on that rat explanation.
I go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
You go back to sleep now.
Yeah.
Okay, talk about HRV. So the other thing that I'm thinking is that we're in forward head posture all day. We are stressed from the world being stressful. We are in this sympathetic dominant state, and we are just not only destroying our spines, but our nervous systems are so anemic of the relaxation part of it. So what I also gathered from you the first time I heard you speak on this is sleeping is supposed to be the time that we're enhancing the parasympathetic nervous system. But if you're on your side or you're on your stomach, you may not be getting parasympathetic response. You may be staying in a sympathetic dominant state. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, Mindy, this is really everything, right? In order, like regulating how well your body's able to shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic, stay in parasympathetic, in heal. So we have two different nervous systems, and I'm sure you've explained this to your listeners. And they need to be in balance on each other. So one nervous system, which is sympathetics, are designed to help you survive, help you live, help you react. And then the other nervous system is to help you thrive, right? So it's survive versus thrive. So a cell cannot be in growth and defense at the same time. They're in counteraction. So in order to, you can't run from a tiger and have sex behind a tree at the same time. You can't eat a big meal and go for a marathon swim, right? Because there are certain systems in your body, and it's really interesting when somebody has a problem. They have a problem in multiple systems. It's because they're all connected. They don't have an issue with like the digestive tract or the reproduction issue or hormone irregularity. They have a balance issue in their nervous system or in their state. So if you are in sympathetic state where it doesn't matter if your brain thinks you're running from a tiger or you are running from a tiger. You're in this survival state. That's you running all your apps at the same time. So the contrary to that, or the opposite, is the thrive state, is where your body grows and repairs. So the growth systems, the major ones, is reproductive system, immune system, and digestive system. So how many people have hypersensitivities? They have asthma, they have hormonal imbalances, they have gas and bloating, diarrhea, constipation, because they have a suppressed thrive state. The sympathetic states are cardiovascular. That's brain and the blood in the front part of your brain, where you're thinking, you're in control, you're reactive, you're moody. That's like the sympathetic state. And we live here.
Yeah.
You live here over a long period of time, and you just keep suppressing and beating yourself up internally. So there's something that's called heart rate variability. It is a sense. So if you live in the sympathetic dominance for so long and you're suppressing your parasympathetic or your thrive system, you're going to drop what's called your autonomic activity index. Your flame starts burning lighter and lighter and lighter and starts withering away. Think about like a big fire. And then over a period of time, when it starts to wither away, you just get this little flame. So that's what's happening inside to people as a state. And that's why we get sick. That's why we get COVID. We don't get COVID because somebody coughed on us. We get COVID because we run ourselves down and then we get sick. So it's that's the inside out. We need to be more focused on ourselves. So when you wake up, that you can take your heart rate variability and you can get a score. And that gives you how well you were rested, how ready you are for that day. So when my patients ask me, Doc, how much sleep do I need? I'd say, well, first you need to get a heart rate variability monitor.
Yes.
Just put it on, wear it for a couple weeks, give me your number, your average number, and I'll tell you if it's enough. You want heart rate variability numbers to be high, so you need more sleep. Or if somebody's heart rate variability numbers off the charts, they can get away with 5, 6, 7 hours of sleep. I need 9 hours of sleep because I run like you. I'm a machine in my head, and I'm always thinking. And from the time I wake up to the time I fall asleep, I'm always on go. And it requires a lot of downtime for me to be able to maintain my energy.
So have you seen changes in your heart rate variability and your patient's heart rate variability just from changing the position of their sleep?
Just changing your sleep position, 25 to 30%.
That's crazy. I mean, again, my aha of this discussion is that I have always known, gosh, if I've been under a lot of stress, I need to sleep more. That makes logical sense. But when you wake up and you're not rested, when you zoom into the next day, I never really thought that just because I am sleeping doesn't mean my nervous system is repairing. And what I hear you saying is if you are curled in a ball, you're on your stomach, you're sleeping, you're tossing and turning, but your nervous system isn't repairing. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and it is accurate. Until we see the data, right? So some people get good quality sleep when they're on their side, but most people toss and turn all night long. And there's so many variabilities to that. What I like to do is I like to kind of pull everything back and say, what is the most neutral position I can put somebody in? What gives them the highest % chance of being well rested and not moving all over the place? And what's going to improve the structure? What's the best mold for their spine to be in? And we start there.
Right.
And once we start there, it might not work the first night, maybe not the first week, maybe not the first month. But as we do that over a long period of time, you will start to see spines transform. Like Mindy, you and me, we really understand the atlas, right, which controls the parasympathetic nervous system. It's the top bone in the human body. It is the one that the brainstem really comes down and sits right on. So when you look at, and for those of you that are listening, I'm going to show an X-ray of an atlas that is out of alignment, causing this patient had a lot of digestion issues, reproductive issues. She had, a lot of anxiety. She was living in that sympathetic dominant state, which was amplified by her atlas misalignment. So that's the one right here. It's jammed right up underneath the occiput. It's almost touching the skull. And then afterwards, after we changed her sleeping position and we adjusted her, now you can see it's in complete alignment. Her entire life changed just by changing her sleeping position.
So if you can change the atlas with a sleeping position, then my thought is you can lower blood pressure, you could overcome constipation, like things that we are throwing either medications or even supplements at. If you could just change the pillow and change the atlas, you're going to change some major pieces to the body.
Absolutely. And let's look at the spine like clay, right? So if we look at the spine like clay, the harder the clay is, the more difficult it is for that clay to remold. So hard clay in the body is degeneration, is scar tissue, is old injuries. So what happens is somebody that is older has a more difficult time to reshape their clay because there are more pressure points and the body fights it a little bit more. Chiropractic care, in a sense, what we can do chiropractically is we can take your clay and we can put it in water. That makes it more moldable. But just like me, I was getting adjusted, but I still had back pain. If you expose your clay to the same molds, you'll just still have the same patterns and you'll be dependent on care to keep yourself out of
Forever.
pain.
Yeah, well said.
So that is why I love coupling chiropractic care with using a neck nest, because what happens is they get the benefit with the adjustment. They take their clay, they put it in water, and they are able to restructure their spine a lot quicker by adding both of those two things together.
Do you see that your patients hold their adjustments better?
Yeah.
The corrective work that you do need less corrective work when they are using the proper pillow?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. It's fantastic. Once somebody starts to create a new mold for their spine, and when I was thinking about the name, right? The name neck nest. What the heck is a nest? It's a place for your head to nest every night. You know what I mean? It's like,
I love it.
This soft little nest that you put your neck. That's why I called it neck nest. I was thinking about neck pod, but the pods were already used. What was it, like the neck molds? But that doesn't sound good. So that's why we came up with the neck nest. But it really is. It's really, you got to look at your pillow. Like look at in the 1500s, right? One of the campaigns that we were working on is, did we get it wrong? Where in the 1500s, when you look at what they use for a pillow, and then now modern day pillows have evolved to a soft, fluffy support for your head. When you go back to the original 1500s pillow, it was a block of wood underneath your neck.
That's right.
To support your neck. They cared about wrinkles, but I mean, it's still, I believe we got it wrong. We're trying to bring it back to structure and be able to we may get these really comfortable beds to be able to allow us to adapt to these poor sleeping positions, and it's destroying our spines.
Yeah, comfort. It destroys a lot of things in our life, right? Yeah. I mean, this is how we got an obesity problem, because everybody has access to food. So we made our beds so soft. People aren't sleeping well. I love it. I love that idea. So I'm again thinking about the application of this, and I want to just sort of walk our listeners through this. So what I hear is you can use a pillow like the neck nest to balance your nervous system out and increase your HRV. You can use it to overcome forward head syndrome, which is where your head is coming forward from all the texting and the computer work. But then what I'm also hearing in your story is we could use it for pain. Somebody has chronic hip pain. They could get a neck nest and try it to see if it resolves their pain issues. And I'm thinking, what about our teenagers who are so wrought with anxiety? Could we get them sleeping properly and restoring their nervous systems at night? And now we've got a more well-balanced kid during the day. The application of something as simple as a pillow is incredible. And I know you probably think like this, but like, am I thinking this through properly?
Look at you. I see, Mindy, I see you having a revelation. This is good.
I'm having an aha moment.
I'm just going to let this sink in. Amen, sister. That's all I can say to you. Absolutely. It's why I am so passionate. Listen, the Lord, he brings out paths for you and lays things in front of you. And I never thought I would be in the sleep industry, but it's what I've been called to do. I zigzagged into it because of my underlying knowledge on the structure, and then being able to figure out what we can do to fix it. And the way that I can help this help humanity is to be a loud voice to teach people to change their sleeping position.
Yeah. You know what? I equate it to fasting. The thing I love about the fasting world is that you're tapping into an intelligence that will self-repair. And when you take food out of the equation, the body goes into this just accelerated healing state. If you're eating crappy food all day and you start fasting, now you're creating some healing. Same thing with that pillow. If you are sitting at a computer all day, if you're inundated with stress, physical, emotional, chemical stress, and you go into bed with a pillow like the neck nest and you're rebalancing your nervous system, to me, that's the only way we're going to be able to overcome the damages that the modern world is giving us. Because there's too many damages. There's too much crappy food. There's too many stressors for our teenagers. There's too many opportunities for text next to appear for us because we're on. So you have to have something to counterbalance all of that.
What better biohack to improve your energy by 30% than to do it while you're sleeping? Right. To simply do it while you're sleeping. But if it sounds so easy, then everybody would do it. Right. We would have no neck nest returns at all.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you, it is not easy, because we have sold thousands and thousands and thousands of neck nests all across the world. And the number one complaint is, I can't do it. And you can do it, right? You can do it. You're just not giving yourself enough time. And we've created also this sleep thing called the 30-day sleep quest, where I teach you how to do it over 30 days. Little lifestyle changes like sleep elevated, put something over your forehead. When you use covers, like, you're not supposed to be covered from head to toe. You don't want to have your hands and your feet underneath the covers at all times. You don't want to play tug of war with your spouse all night long.
Right.
So you should have your own blanket. You can snuggle cuddle, at the beginning of the night, Mindy, but when it is time to go to sleep, you give me my space, snuggle cuddle, right? Because what if your snuggle cuddler, right, was just ate late, or maybe had a glass of wine? They're going to burn up and be a furnace. And in order for you to get to sleep, your body core temperature needs to drop 2 degrees. And if you're sleeping next to a furnace, and I could see if you were in the wilderness, Mindy, and you wanted to snuggle to stay warm. But no, I love you, but this is my space. So you want to have your hands and your feet out of the covers. You want to be really protective of your body core temperature. Your core temperature needs to drop quickly. Your heart rate needs to drop. These are all things. It's like, how do I have to know all of this stuff? You don't. All you need to do is don't eat so late. Make sure you're in a cool environment. Use your own covers. Feel protected. There are ways and techniques that I teach people how to get this done right.
That's beautiful, beautiful. So, okay, tell us about the neck nest, because I just want to make sure that we put a good shout out for your product, because it is ridiculously unique. And I also like that it's soft. So I told you the first time I saw it, the first thing I thought is there's no way that's going to help. It's too soft. The second thing that I thought was it's so soft, it's going to break down so easily that I'm going to have to buy myself another one. So explain the mechanism behind this pillow, because people listening, they're not seeing it. And I encourage you all, we'll put a link to Peter's website so you can go check it out. I think it's actually necknest.com. It's super easy.
It is super easy. Yeah, the neck nest, when you use one, it has two different phases. There's when it comes, when it comes a little stiffer, the fill, it's a down fill, it's a down induct that all the pokers and the pointers on in it. So the fill is, it's fluffed up when you first get it. And I tell people, kick it, lie on it, sit on it, drive it in your car with it behind you. You want to break the fill in. Then when the fill is broken in, now it becomes soft and almost as like my neck nest is flattening out. It's so soft, it doesn't support my neck anymore. That is when the magic of the neck nest happens. And I teach people it's 3 steps to using a neck nest. Once it breaks in, you put it flat on the bed, then you angle it up slightly, and then you put the neck nest underneath your neck like a nest. And for those of you that are watching, it's step 1 flat, step 2 angle, step 3 back. And once you do that 3-step approach to the neck nest, your neck is in a perfectly neutral position. And getting that right is a little difficult, but we do a lot of education on that and teach people to really understand that when you get a neck nest, the first 4 weeks of the break-in period, but the rest of the life of the neck nest, I've been using my neck nest, the same neck nest for 4 years, and it's still the same one.
It's probably like an old pair of shoes where it's like your favorite when you put it on now. That's amazing. And you've been so gracious. Thank you. You're going to give us, my group, 10% off. So you guys, if you want to try one out.
You really, you come up with the intention, the anchor of, all right, this guy, he's a little weird, he looks a little weird. He's got a shock shirt on. That's a little weird. But,
weird.
But what he's saying might make a little bit of sense. So you just start 1 to 2 hours a night on your back. Throw the neck nest on the floor when you're done with it. I don't care. Then go to your side. But just start using it like that and start getting used to it. And and next thing you know, you'll be a lifelong back sleeper.
We're going to get all our resetters to use one and then check it with their HRV. So I'm actually really excited to take it over a big group of people and see if we start to see changes. Have you seen changes in deep sleep? Because that's what also a number I've been chasing.
Yeah. So deep sleep, we're actually in. So what you find is people's deep sleep vary based on how active they are. So one night you might not need a lot of deep sleep. The next night you exercise, your body needs a lot of repair. My brain goes a million miles a minute, so I require a lot of REM sleep. I require a lot of like so deep sleep is repair at a deep core level. REM sleep is trying to manage your hard drive and defrag your hard drive and put things into compartments and make something out of your life. So I require a lot more REM sleep than I do deep sleep. But when I exercise, I require more deep sleep. We're working on different supplementations and different techniques to be able to maximize both of them. But we're still
Love it.
That stuff should be out in August or September. And our tribe is trying some different things and monitoring it with their Oura rings.
That's beautiful. Well said. Okay, rapid. I want to respect your time. So I know you have another appointment after this. Rapid fire 5 questions for you. These are customized for you. I stalked you this morning.
I love it. That's perfect.
Okay, here's my first question.
Go ahead.
Why bees? What is it that we're going to
save the bees, save the world?
Yes.
My beehive, just so interesting. Like I was almost late to this because my hive de-queened. So my queen must have went on a little flight and got eaten by a bird or something.
Oh no.
So I lifted up and there's no queen there. My hive was dying. So I had to go get a queen and I reintroduced it to my hive. We sell 60 pounds of honey, raw local honey, every 2 weeks in my office. It helps my patients' digestive tracts. It helps with energy, helps with brain focus. Like the Russians used honey, and they found that's the only food that increase your IQ when they were doing the study
So
back in
cool.
the day.
So cool. I love it. I knew you had a little thing with that. Okay. What about the best book that you have ever read, that, or a book that influenced your life that you're like, everybody needs to read this book?
I would say, it's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, a lot of times we ritualistically do the same things, and it's so difficult because it's so ingrained to change, and change takes work.
Mhm.
And reading that book, it teaches you how to change.
I love that book. Well said. Okay, if there was one person alive today that is inspiring to you that you could sit down and have a personal conversation with, who would it be, and what would you want to talk about?
One person to have a conversation with. Well, this is independent right now of any political stuff. Believe it or not, it would be Donald Trump. And let me tell you why, because there are a lot of people that hate me for saying that. He had been up against such adversity, right? And so many people are against him. I almost feel like because I'm this person that's coming out and I'm talking about things in a different perspective that is that is so much different than what the normal, I'm not in line with the normal thought process, right? And I'm thinking differently. So how do you shut all of that stuff off and focus on what the what the purpose at hand is?
Yeah, fascinating. So do you have pillow haters?
Not pillow haters, but people that are so ingrained in their way of thinking.
Yeah.
And that's that research. Oh no, side sleeping's the best. You don't know what you're talking about. Look at this one. And I'm like, well, what are your variables? What research are you accepting? And what are the variables of that research that you're accepting? So because I'm coming at it from a very structural point of view and looking at it as spinal biomechanics, people can't see that because I'm coming from a chiropractic mindset, which isn't really adopted in the current paradigm.
I really think, well said, because I really think that if every human took a step back and looked at the poor health of the world, I think we would all agree to some level, we need to do something different. Like what we've been doing has not gotten us to a place of superior health, especially here in America. So I love what you just said. I call it nuanced, where we're willing to look beyond the headline and go deeper into the nuance of something to think for ourselves. So yeah, I love that. I don't want you to have any pillow haters.
No,
okay.
That's all right.
Last two questions. If you could have a conversation with your 20-year-old self, what would you tell him?
Your limitations are in your own mind.
Well said. Well said. Okay, last question. If you had a message for the world that you could get into everybody's mind, what would that message be?
Be the change you want to see in this world. Don't let anybody influence you. If you want to see something and you want to see change, you're not happy with what's going on around you, lead by example, regardless of the rifts or that you think it would create. But so be the change you want to see. How do you feel? Let's say you put yourself in a place where you're on like the Tobin Bridge in Boston. There's a lot of traffic going by. People are beeping versus putting yourself, in the Grand Canyon on a mountain in the middle of just bliss.